Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into one of the biggest mysteries out there, consciousness. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if it's not some thing locked away inside our skulls? What if it's something way, way bigger?
And that's the big question for today. Instead of thinking about consciousness as a byproduct of the brain, I want you to picture it as a kind of bridge, a dynamic connection between two totally different worlds. All right, let's get into it. The framework we're exploring is called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short. And its whole premise is that consciousness isn't something the brain makes, but rather a link between our physical brain and this other realm of pure, untapped potential. So think of it like this. On one side of the bridge, you've got matter. This is all the physical stuff we can measure, right? Neurons firing, synapses buzzing, all the biochemical action in your brain. But on the other side, you have what this model calls the continuum. It's a balanced field of pure potential, a space of infinite possibilities and undefined states. And consciousness? Well, consciousness is the bridge that connects them.
Okay, so how does a bridge like that actually work? Well, according to this model, our conscious experience isn't some fixed thing. It moves, it travels, it flows across our cortex in these incredibly complex waves.
They're called strain carrier waves. You can literally think of them as the vehicles that carry our consciousness. And they're a mix of, well, everything. Electrochemical signals, electromagnetic fields, and even the physical mechanical tension, the strain, moving through the brain tissue itself. This incredibly complex, flowing wave. That's what our subjective experience actually is. Now, these waves aren't all the same. They take on different shapes. The first type is feeling. This is a wave that's shaped by our emotional resonance. You know, the overall balance or imbalance of all that strain across the brain. It's the physical basis for what it actually feels like to be happy or anxious or sad.
Then you have sensation. So when you see a bright color or hear a sudden noise, that external information actually deforms this field of potential. It creates a very specific ripple, a particular wave shape that your brain then interprets as sight, or sound, or touch. I mean, think about that. The outside world is literally making waves inside your consciousness. And finally, of course, there's cognition, our thoughts. In this model, our memories are stored as these stable patterns called motifs. When those strain waves we've been talking about move around and interfere with each other and with these memory motifs, they create a brand new, even more complex wave. And that new wave, that is the thought.
So to actually describe how these waves behave, how they exist as a sea of possibilities before one specific thought pops up, the BKM borrows its math from one of the most powerful toolkits we have in all of science, quantum physics.
But wait, this is a hugely important point. This is a formal analogy. The model is absolutely not saying the brain is some kind of quantum computer. The brain is way too warm, wet, and messy for those delicate quantum effects to happen on a large scale. Instead, it's just using the powerful mathematics from quantum mechanics as a really useful language to describe these big classical brainwaves. And you can see here just how well that analogy works. In quantum physics, you have a wave function that describes all the possible states of a particle. Well, in the brain kinematics model, you have a wave function that describes the distribution of all possible strains across the brain. And just like a quantum wave collapses into one definite particle, this wave of potential in the brain collapses into one definite thought or memory. It's a really elegant parallel. Okay, so now that we have all that groundwork, let's get to the really wild part. How this whole framework gives us a brand new way to understand one of the most mysterious things we all experience, our dreams.
So the idea is, when you go to sleep, your brain is anything but a blank slate. All the thoughts, feelings, and sensations from your day have left behind what's called a residual strain geography. It's like a unique landscape of leftover energy. A map of emotional hotspots and faint traces that becomes the literal ground from which your dreams will grow. And then, different parts of the brain start to act on this landscape. You've got the amygdala, our emotion center, which kicks into high gear and lights up all those emotional hotspots.
Then the inferior prefrontal cortex tries its best to weave these activated bits and pieces into some kind of story. But here's the kicker. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, our hub for logic and reason, is basically offline. And with that filter gone, you get all the surreal, bizarre, and wonderful weirdness of dreams.
So to put it all together real quick, your day leaves behind a totally unique landscape of strains in your brain. Then, while you sleep, certain brain centers light up parts of that landscape. A very special dream logic pulls different features together and, poof, a completely unique dream is born. And this whole process leads us to one of the model's coolest conclusions, a really clear reason why you will never, ever have the exact same dream twice.
So that special binding rule we mentioned is called symbolic similarity. It's basically the physics of the dream world. Things don't get connected by real-world logic. Instead, memory fragments get linked together because they share a similar emotional feeling, or similar shape, or some other random connection. That's why your high school teacher might suddenly be flying a plane made of cheese in the dream's landscape. They're connected by some shared symbolic meaning.
And that brings us right to this key idea. Because no 2 days are ever exactly the same, that residual strain geography left in your brain each night is always a brand new, one-of-a-kind landscape. So even if you have a dream about being chased every single week, the specific pieces, the feelings, the symbols, the actual crystallization of that dream is a totally unique event, every single time.
And that's a pretty powerful thought to end on, isn't it? If your consciousness is really this bridge between what's real and what's possible, if your thoughts are literally waves that you get to shape in this massive field of potential, it kind of makes you think. The landscape you're creating right now, with every experience today, is going to become the literal fabric of your dreams tonight. So, what will you choose to create?